So right off the top, we begin in Canada, where you are seeing an empty podium. It will not be empty for very long. Officials there in Canada planning to give an update on a plane crash at Toronto Pearson International Airport. That Delta plane crash landed upside down yesterday afternoon. You can see the aftermath there in that icy landscape. Some of the 80 people on board in the hospital right now with critical injuries. First responders, though, largely credited with saving the day in that fast response that you've likely seen all over your social media feed. But now the questions begin and the drilling down for answers. What caused yet another plane crash in the headlines? So once we hear from those officials at that podium, we're going to bring that to you live right here on CBS News 24/7. In the meantime, CBS News correspondent Tom Hanson joins us live. Tom, what do we know so far, my friend?
Reed, I want to paint a picture for you for what some of these passengers were going through. One account from one passenger says that he felt like he was hanging like a bat before he unbuckled his seatbelt and was able to get out of the plane. These were just terrifying, shocking moments leading up to the rescue from the crew and additionally first responders who were standing by to get people out of the plane safely. As you saw that video, the moment that the plane started to essentially combust, that happened very quickly upon landing. And so now the questions are circulating as to just what caused that. Was it a mechanical failure? Was it weather conditions? We know that there were wind gusts up to 37 miles an hour. That is not an easy landing for even the most experienced pilot. Additionally, there were snowy conditions, which could have kicked snow up into the air, really reduced the visibility for the pilots. So, you know, there are a lot of questions that we're hoping to get out of this press conference where we're waiting just moments from now for officials to give us some indication as to what they think went wrong, where the investigation is going, and what's next. Reed.
Such a scary, scary experience for the people who are on board, Tom. I just have to ask, you know, usually when we do these stories, we say the NTSB, or the National Transportation Safety Board, is investigating, but we are over international lines now. It's Canada. Who's the investigative agency chasing these answers?
Yeah, well, it's the Canadian authorities that are taking the lead on this investigation. I know there might be some confusion for Americans out there who think that, well, this was an American flight. It started in Minnesota and ended up in Toronto. So typically the NTSB would be the agency that would be investigating this, but instead it is the Canadian authorities that are taking the lead, with NTSB running assistance on this. And no doubt they are going to be examining that footage, interviewing some of the survivor accounts. One FAA administrator, a former FAA administrator, I should say, says that this is nothing short of a miracle that all 80 people on board this flight were able to get off alive. Now, there are two people we are learning who are in critical condition in a hospital here, a 40-year-old woman, a 60-year-old man. Another 19 people have minor to moderate injuries. And this is, for so many Canadians, eerily reminiscent of a crash that happened nearly 2 decades ago at this very airport with some 300 people on board, where the plane skid along the runway, also burst into flame. Everyone on that flight miraculously also made it out alive. And so, you know, this is deja vu all over again, if you will, for a number of Canadians who watched in horror and shock as this plane did the exact same thing yesterday.
Right, and we are only in the month of February, and it seems like we continue for our dinner time headlines to see crash after crash, incident after incident. Even the most level-headed person, Tom, may ask the question, should I feel safe getting on an airplane these days?
Yeah, well, it's incredibly understandable given the news cycle that anyone would have a little bit of pause. I have to say, Reed, even boarding a flight from New York City to Buffalo in order to drive here to Toronto, I had a little bit of that concern and that anxiety taking off. But, you know, every expert that we've spoken to has doubled down on the fact that statistically speaking, taking a commercial plane is far safer than hopping in your car and going on your day-to-day commutes. The risks of getting into a car crash are significantly higher. Commercial flying is one of the safest, if not the safest, mode of transportation, especially in the United States, Reed. But we have, to your point, witnessed several high-profile crashes, 3 small planes in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and then, of course, that awful, disastrous crash in D.C. that claimed the lives of everyone on board. And so it is easy to let your anxiety get the best of you, but every expert we speak to says that statistically, commercial flying is the safest mode of transportation out there.
Well, we know this, where there are headlines, CBS News will be there. Tom Hanson, you're an example of that right now. We appreciate you, and we're looking live at that podium right there behind Tom. Our commitment to you is as soon as those authorities step in front of that podium to give the answers that so many families want after this very scary situation happened, not the least of which the 2 families who have family members who are in critical condition in hospitals, they especially want those answers. As soon as those officials give that update on the crash, we will go to it.